Welcome to the Innovators and Investors Podcast. I'm Kristian Marquez, founder and CEO of Finstrat Management. At Finstrat, we provide CFO-led accounting, finance, and reporting services to assist clients monetize their business. Stick around to the end of the podcast and I'll share how you can be our next guest. Now on to the show. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Innovators and Investors Podcast. I'm your host, Kristian Marquez, founder and CEO of Finstrat Management. With us today, we have Yotam Cohen. Yotam is the co-founder and CEO of Daisy. Yotam, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, excited to have you on. So let's start with Daisy. Tell me about the company, what you guys are focused on, and the problem you're solving in the marketplace.
Yeah, Daisy is a full stack end-to-end property management. So we manage residential building and more specifically HOA, homeowners association, where you have different owners, they choose the board, and the board chooses the management company. So we are a property management, but we are using technology in order to make the board's life easier, the resident happier, and the building healthier.
And so what was the start? It sounded like it may have started as a property management company and then you saw an opportunity in the market and then created the software.
Yeah, so actually, we started a company for my personal need. I'm a second-time entrepreneur, and I did a mistake in joining a board of my building. And I was actually pretty frustrated from the way the building was managed. The financial were a mess. The elevator was constantly down, and I didn't want to be that neighbor that just complains all the time. So I took action, and I said, you know what? I'll join the board, and I'll fix everything. And when I joined the board, I was pretty much shocked to see how things have been managed so far. So antiquated. So really saw an opportunity to, on one hand, impact dramatically people's life because that's where we live. And on the other hand, to really disrupt a very antiquated industry. But yeah, that's how I got to it. I didn't come from real estate. I always say it's like my biggest disadvantage and advantage is that I don't know all the world and I can actually ask more questions.
Ignorance is bliss, that's for sure. So I think you started the company in October 2019?
Yeah, a bit after, but yeah, in the beginning, we just started and a few months later, COVID hit. So it was a very interesting first year to start a company. But yeah, that's when we started.
Okay, and I know we were chatting before the show. You're metropolitan New York. Is most of your focus today in the Northeast, or have you gotten to the point where you started to branch out to the rest of the country?
Yeah, so Daisy, we launched Daisy about 3.5 years ago in New York, in Manhattan, with our first building that we manage. And since then, we've been in a very rapid growth. We're now number 8 in New York with the number of buildings we manage, and we are the fastest growing management company for the past 3 years. And we started to expand to New Jersey as well and looking at Florida as our next market. But generally been expanding really fast since then.
And so was the decision to start with the initial expansion in New York, New Jersey, very deliberate, or did you find that things were just falling in place and it was a lot easier to close deals given the proximity?
Yeah, so in general, we, as opposed to a lot of other companies, we wanted to start with the toughest city, which is New York City. And as you said, you grew up here, so you know what I'm talking about. So we started here because this is the biggest market for real estate in general and the toughest as well. But it's a huge market. There's like 12,000 condo and co-ops just in New York. So it's a huge market for us. And that's why we started here. But in general, yeah, we are expanding to other locations because we are built on technology. Then it's much easier for us to scale and to branch out as opposed to the incumbents and traditional management companies who are very local type of businesses. And we're basically now expanding to other places.
Fantastic. So a bunch more questions. Before we get there, if we could take a step back, would love to learn about your career progression and what it looked like leading up to co-founding Daisy.
Sure. So as I mentioned, Daisy is my second company. I co-founded a different company called Wibbits in 2010. And when I started my first company, it was basically a generative AI, if you think about it today, because we were transforming text into video automatically before generative AI. We were selling to publishers and media companies and helping them to scale their video production. Was there for 10 years, about 100 employees, and eventually was acquired by Vimeo. And then as I said, started Daisy right after.
And so what were some of the key lessons learned during the time as you were building the text to video?
So I don't think we have enough time for the mistakes I've done, but I'll pick a few. But I think the biggest one I think was really about starting with the market. I think my first company was we had an idea for a cool product and we started it right from the product itself because we thought it's going to be useful. And Daisy, I really invested a lot of time in understanding the market, understanding the personas, their needs, their wants, talking to every person in the industry that I could in order to learn the industry from the ground up. And I think that really helped us to clarify and focus what exactly are we going to build before we started building it. And I think that was a very big lesson for us. I can tell you that the seed deck that I raised the first round for Daisy is actually exactly the same of what we're doing 5 years after, right? So
Hmm.
there's some screens from there that are now live, right? So it's really, really close to what we pitched. And I think that's an evident to the market research we've done in the beginning. And the second thing is really around focus. I think that's the thing that most startups fail at and trying to do too many things. And I think that's something that I did, I think, very differently in Daisy compared to Wibbits. Is really constant this very harsh focus on what exactly you need to do and what is the most important thing for the company. And that of course evolves over time, but this is, I think, the second big one. And the third, which I think it's coming the third, but it's actually the most important one, which is the team. Who do you hire? Who do you bring on the bus with you? I think that's crucial.
So okay, so one of the key things I heard there on the first and second items is discipline, and I presume you have the scars to show why it's a lot easier to be disciplined. But I don't, as you reflect back, I mean, do you think it was just ignorance, or do you feel like no, now you realize that by focus, yeah, it may be boring to focus on one thing and honing it and getting really, really good at it, but there's just no two ways about it. That's the approach you have to take to be successful.
I think I don't know if it's really that uncertainty, right? When you're an entrepreneur, you don't really know, right? You need to make a lot of decisions with a lot of uncertainty and with not a lot of confidence that this is the right move. And I think that I always like to say that, building a startup is like a puzzle. You try to put the pieces together. In the beginning, you have just a few and you don't see the picture for a long time, and you still need to make decisions and you need to execute around that. So I think when there is a lot of uncertainty, then you ask, maybe if I do that, or maybe if I do that. So you try too many things, in my view, as opposed to sticking to your strategy and executing. And then if it doesn't work, it's okay, but then pivot dramatically to the other areas. And I think most startup, when you actually uncover and you talk to startups and you talk to entrepreneurs and you ask the right question, you'll find that they were doing too many things. Even today, I think we are focused, but I still think we always do too many things than what we need to do.
Okay. And then you mentioned the team. So I'd love to hear how your philosophy around people has evolved over the years.
Yeah, so I think it comes down to the values that we started for Daisy. And my co-founder, myself, Nir is my co-founder and CTO. The first document we did for the company was our core values. And we came up with four core values for the company. One was basically always evolve. I really believe that people always need to change. The company is changing, the environment is changing, and you always need to change with it. The second thing is change the game. We are looking for people who can think outside the box, and because we are changing an industry that have been here for decades and been operating in the same way for so many years. The third thing is really actually care. We are managing people's home, and it comes with, we need to really care about what you're doing, because if not, then you wouldn't help people where they live. And the third thing is, which is the one I love the most, which is positivity begets positivity. I think that being positive has a network effect, and I think that if you are coming and very positive, then people will be positive around you. And those are the four core values of what I look in people, people that create energy, people that are willing to learn and evolve and are humble for it. And this is, in my view, the way I change a lot from my previous company.
So I'm curious, when you make a hire and if you feel like after the fact you missed the mark, do you try to remediate and give them a chance to improve, or how quick are you to let them go?
I'll say in general that I would say, for people's involvement. I believe that people can change. I believe that people can evolve. I know there are different CEOs out there that, you know, can think that they are faster to fire people if they are wrong. I actually on the side the people that believe that people can actually evolve. I think where you usually fail is the ability to give candid feedback. And I think if you give someone candid feedback, I think a lot of people are able to change and evolve. Not everyone, obviously, but at least you try. And I believe in trying, because I think if a person gets candid feedback and they're able to take it and evolve, I think the company is winning as well as the employee, obviously. But I'm strong believer in that. Sometimes, it comes down to the fact that you have a person staying too long in the organization, which is not great, but I rather get it right with the right ones and then, even keep someone for a few more months.
So I'm curious then, how do you think about structuring the company to ensure that you're retaining smart and effective staff?
Yeah, so we're doing, in my view, a really simple and very efficient tool, which is we basically ask every leader in the organization to rate all their employees in their team with answering one question, which is, would you hire them again? And,
No.
and then they have four options: either amazing, yes, for sure, I will hire them. Two is yes, I would hire them with small caveat. Three is I won't, but I think in 3 months they can get there. And four, I won't hire them. And for us, it's the best tool to actually rate and understand where people stand. And the ones that are amazing, okay, let's promote them. Let's give them more responsibility. And I think, and the one obviously that are not, let's have, a feedback conversation with them and see where it's going. But this is, in my view, a way to actually measure that also from my perspective and understand our talent density, but also our ability to promote people as well in the organization and give them more responsibility.
I think it makes really good sense, and I love the questions. I may borrow that. You also mentioned positivity. So, you know, I agree with your assessment, and I've been of the opinion that as a CEO myself, it's my responsibility to come with high energy on a daily basis. Um, how do you find that you tackle the hard days? Because we all, we're not always. We'd love to say we're always on the ups, but sometimes just life happens and we're on the downs. How do you make best efforts to show up for the team, raring to go?
So I like to say to my team as well, everybody can create energy, right? Everybody can create positive energy. And sometimes, as you said, we have tough days, right? But I get the energy as well from people that I manage, right? If they come and they smile and they're excited about something and they get me excited, then my day changes as well. So I think that's why I think I really like this value, which is positivity begets positivity. Like, you have this network effect, like, so everybody can affect everyone. And of course, I have some bad days as well, like anyone else. And I get the energy mainly from the people that I work with, and they get the energy from me. So I think it's the best thing you can do is try to be obviously as positive as you can constantly. I wouldn't say I'm 100% there all the time, but I'm always trying.
Love it. Do you have an office or is the team remote?
And we have an office, and we have in Midtown in Manhattan, and we have another one in Tel Aviv where the product and R&D is there. I actually, again, on the ones that believe in office, I think there is a lot of energy that is being passed when we sit together in a room that is very hard to pass through Zoom. But yeah, we are from the office. We work from the office. We have 2 days from home and basically 3 days from the office.
Fantastic. And are you getting the U.S. and Israel teams together?
As much as we can, and we are flying people around to the offices, and we have obviously all hands for the entire company, but not enough, if I must say. We did some cool things together, like we have a screen in the kitchen in both offices, so you can see each other constantly.
Oh,
It's like a window to the office, which is really nice. We're doing some, we just this month, I think we have a competition of how many steps. We divided the entire company into teams, mixed teams, and we basically have a steps competition of who is walking the most. I'm actually not that successful in that, but yeah.
oh, that's funny. Well, that's awesome. One of the reasons I ask is we're a remote team as well, and we make an effort to get together at least once a year. But it can be difficult depending on the size of the company and where people are located. But it's great to hear that you're actually thinking other ways of how you can create some bonds. I think competition is a great way. We've done something similar ourselves. If you're familiar, there's a service called Pizza Time, Coffee Time, where they can
Yeah.
simultaneously deliver food to everybody, and you can get on a gigantic Zoom and just share a meal. Um, so let's talk about AI. So big theme, reoccurring here on the podcast, seems to have everybody's attention. I think for good reason. You also mentioned that you've had experience with it going back now 15 years. How are you, where does AI fall on the PropTech roadmap? And how are you thinking about leveraging the technology to improve Daisy?
Yeah, so first of all, again, transformative technology in my view on almost, if not every part of our life. Specifically with Daisy, we are, as I said, a service company, right? So we are managing the buildings, we are the property management, and we are doing basically service that can be completely replaced or almost completely with AI.
Mhm.
So if you think about traditional management companies, we are running the building, we are orchestrating the vendor, the super, and everybody around the building. We have a lot of documents and data that we need to compile and get insights from, and there is a lot of filings and communication, and all of that, basically AI is really, really great at. So at Daisy specifically, we are implementing AI across the board. More specifically, we are focusing on releasing more and more agents within our organization. So just to give some context to it, by the end of the year, we'll probably do 5x in the last 2 years in our business, but we are actually about the same amount of people in the company. And so we are able to transform a lot of the functions in the organization with AI, and by releasing more and more agents across the team. The way I see it is that AI agents are basically part of the org chart. So every team should have an agentic bot that is starting maybe as a junior, becomes a senior, becomes a manager with their capabilities. As an example, we have Switch in Steven, which is a bot that in charge on onboarding new buildings to Daisy. The agent knows how to analyze documents, to extract information, to communicate, and it basically helps us to scale faster as we onboard new buildings. We have other agents that are doing bidding and analyzing documents and bidding from different vendors. We have an agent that now is helping on the support side. So you can think about Daisy's org chart as like,
Mhm.
humans, agents, agents talking to agents, agents talking to people, etc. And this is something that really helps us to scale our service and to provide a better service in the end to our customers.
The analogy to staff member, I think, is great. I'm curious, how have you find that there's been any friction with the existing team in so much as, whether or not they think that this agent, can, eventually one day take over their responsibilities? And if so, how have you dealt with it?
So first of all, the agent gonna take the responsibilities. That's the bottom line. It's gonna take it, and I think that's where the world is going to, and it's true for almost every business out there. I think that, using AI is a cultural shift and understanding AI and not being afraid of technology. And we invested a lot in education to the team and doing hackathons across the board. We have today operators writing code without them even knowing how to write code because they're using AI on a day-to-day basis. And I think eventually you want technology to take from you the mundane day-to-day things so you can actually focus on the more sophisticated or more customer-facing type of roles. But it's going to happen. So we want to be at the forefront of that. And I believe we are. We built agents about a year and a half ago already. So I think we are. It's kind of like the forefront of AI and how we utilize it. And I think it's mainly because it really helps us to provide better service. I think something interesting that is happening that hasn't happened before is that also developers and engineers are being disrupted by writing code, which is something that is very unique to any technological shift that happened in previous times.
So, and then, so a little bit of color. So I have in my head that the property management market is very fragmented.
Mm-hmm.
Are there such a thing as national property management companies?
Yeah. So basically if you zoom out for a second, residential real estate is the biggest asset class in the world, right? Under that, there is what we call the owners market or HOA, homeowners association. It's a huge, huge market on its own. Out of every four households is part of an HOA, 370,000 HOAs just in the US. But this industry is been, as I would call, kind of like behind the scenes for a while, like because people usually look at the multifamily as the main market. This market is a huge market that is currently very, very fragmented. There are two companies that are big companies like First Service and Associate. They hold 11% of the market. All the rest is either mid-size or small moms and pops that are managing 30 HOAs to 50 HOAs. And I think that's what makes it very, very interesting market to disrupt with technology. On the other hand, you have owners and board members that basically live in those communities and got used in the last 10 years, 15 years to use technology to order taxi or to get their food delivered, right? All of that has been disrupted completely. But suddenly when they want to talk to their property manager, they need to send an email and maybe get a response after 4 days. So everybody understands that the shift needs to happen and this innovation needs to come to this world as well. And I believe it needs to be as a full stack management. I think that's the only way to change the status quo and to change the thing that they've been operating in the wrong way for so many years. And that's why we are doing the end-to-end solution and not just an app or just a software.
And what are the biggest nodes in the stack?
What do you mean?
So you said end to end. If you can help our audience understand, what are the key milestones or points in the process?
Yeah, sure. So basically what we did is we built one holistic operating system that holds, first of all the data that is relevant to the community, from the systems that they have to the models, to the filing, to the compliance. Everything is stored in one place.
Yeah.
On top of that, we build an AI workflow engine that can take any process and run it end to end. So I can go to any one of the communities we manage today and the buildings, and I can see the task and I can see what's the status and when it will be resolved. And then what we did, we created this amazing layer of experience for the residents and owners where they have the Daisy Neighbors app. They can log in, they can pay their common charges, they can file any ticket they want and see the status. They can join groups in their community. They can get notification packages in buildings. They can basically do everything they need from the Daisy Neighbors app, as well as the dashboard for the board members where they can log in, they can vote, they can see the financials in real time, they can see all the documents, all the data, everything that is relevant to their community. And what we did took even a step further is we connected vendors and supers and brokers and everybody into this one holistic operating system. And now everybody can actually interact with each other, and we can always see the status of where tasks are at right now.
Fantastic. So Coming back then to these two larger firms, so a lot of discussion that's taking place with AI at large is whether or not the incumbents are going to own the space as compared to individual companies. Would love your assessment. Why is Daisy going to win, and how should we think about AI as it relates to PropTech? Maybe this is a good parallel for the rest of the market, but how, what's your take as to how these other larger firms are thinking about it?
Yeah, so I think eventually it will, as I said, it's going to impact everyone. But I think that for a company that their DNA is not technology and their DNA is not built on technology, their infrastructure is not built on technology, it will be very hard to adopt and change as fast as the technology is changing, right? So traditional management company and incumbents, they will need to transform all their, business basically and how they operate today in order to use the technology to its fullest, right? So when Daisy was built, we were built on technology. We were built on a platform, and that enables us to utilize AI to the fullest because in the end, the AI is really dependent on how your data is
Mm.
structured internally. I think it will evolve and I think it will affect everyone. I think the service as a whole for this industry, in my view, will be better because of the technology. But I do believe that companies that are native and they build technology, built on technology from the get-go, will have a much bigger advantage compared to incumbents. So that's the way I see it. I think it's going back also to what you asked before, which is the culture and the culture of the organization, right?
Mm.
You mentioned before, are people resistant to the change or to using AI? So I believe that incumbents, people will be much more resistant to change. In Daisy, the company is changing every 4 months. So people are used to living in change constantly, right? So
Mm.
they're constantly seeing things change. We change everything all the time. We always follow the metrics and how can we improve the experience for our customers. So this thing is something that is kind of like everybody here is used to. So once we started to introduce AI, vibe coding, NA10, and other tools, it was very easy to implement in the organization.
So it makes great sense. And so part of the takeaway here is that, at least in the property management space, a lot of these incumbents may be running analog type businesses that where technology has never been in their DNA per se, beyond traditional technologies like email.
Yeah, and
Um,
we also see there are some software companies operating in our field, but every time we take over a building, we see that nobody was using it. Nobody
mm.
was using it because they're used to walking out of emails and phone calls. And then when the data is not entered into the system, then you can't really automate it, right? So that's one of the things that we are also seeing, even with regular software and not AI based.
Interesting. So let's talk about then, as you mentioned taking it over, you talked about, a geographic strategy. How do you approach sales and marketing? Is it word of mouth? Are there any particular tactics that you find that you gravitate towards to? Where have you seen success? And if you don't mind sharing, where have you learned not to go?
Yeah, so I think overall we see a wave of change in HOAs. I don't know, people always assume these board members are the ones that are, this grumpy person in the upper floor who's, doesn't really want to do anything. That has changed. Again, I've been in this industry for 5 years and I already see the change. People buy an apartment or buy a house, they see that things are not running well, they pay a lot for the common charges and the maintenance fee, and they want to change that. And they join the board. It's actually a really interesting persona. Those are volunteers. They join the board. They volunteer their time for the good of everyone. And now they want to, make a change. And they're looking for how they can take their community to the next level. And we are basically tapping into this. We're tapping to what
Mm.
we call the innovative board member who wants to make a change, who want to bring their community to the 21st century, understand that this paper, once a month, getting these 80 pages doesn't work. And they actually find us, right? So they reach out to us. We get a lot of referrals. We're doing some digital marketing as well. But that's the main way we are going. And as I said, we are growing fast. We are the fastest growing management company now in New York and starting to expand to the other markets.
Well, congratulations on the growth. So it sounds like these volunteer board members are your champions. And how does it work? Do they have to get a vote from the HOA to onboard Daisy?
Yeah, so the board can make a decision on their own. The board is comprised of 3 to 7 people usually. They can vote and decide to move from their previous management company to Daisy. And then we onboard them in 30 to 60 days, depends on the size. And then they go and they move to Daisy.
And how have you approached customer success? Is it do you have is it your product team who's most familiar with the software, leading implementations, or do you have a separate team that you've staffed out for purposes of onboarding new clients?
So specifically for the onboarding, we have a dedicated team called Switch Team, and they are in charge of onboarding the customer. And they have about almost 200 different types of tasks they run in order to make sure that the community is going live on the right way. And then they basically pass it to the account management team. You have an account manager, you have a person, you have like a property manager that interacts with the board. They're running the board meetings. They're that point of contact for the board for everything that they need. But because we use a lot of technology, we are actually able to resolve things faster and give that transparency to the board for our dashboard, as opposed to them needing to reach out to a person all the time. So you do have that point of contact, but a lot is being done for the Daisy dashboard, basically throughout the entire month.
Fantastic. Love it. So how do you, so the impression that I'm left with is HOAs are going to see a significant level up in terms of their ability to better manage their association. Board members are going to benefit from more transparency. Homeowners will better understand where their fees and dues are being applied. Does this ultimately end with more efficiency, or do you see another outcome down the road, whether it's 5, 10, 20 years, where now that you're 5 years into this market and you see all the opportunities for improvement?
Yeah, I think first of all, as you said, like first of all, it's making people's life better, right? So both the owners and the board and the community, and make it healthier financially and facility wise and compliance wise. And I think once you look at it as, we have this internal health score metric where we look at this community, understand they're in the red, and then the yellow, and they're in the green. But once they get to the green, then I think you can unlock a lot of other possibilities for the community where they can actually collaborate with each other to do other things. They can buy together different services that they need. Like one building we bundled all of them together to the internet service. So they all saved money by using the same provider. Then you can take it to cleaning, and everybody has the same needs, right? So why don't we work together as a community to get better services for all of us? So that's where we're heading in the end. You mentioned 5 years. We see already those things happen right now. But our first and foremost focus is really making those communities healthier from where they are today, because most of them get to us in a very, very, very bad shape across the board.
So, I never really thought of a homeowners association really then of being in a position to pass along benefits or discounts to its members, but it makes complete sense.
Yeah, I think in the end, when you think about homeowners association, it's an association. They work together, right? They are basically in a place where everybody can contribute, everybody pays their common charges, and then you can actually create this group that can operate together and get those discounts. And in the end, this structure can be very, very beneficial if you operate it in the right way. If not, then it becomes a mess. But if you operate it in the right way, it can really benefit everybody that lives in the homeowner association.
It reminds me there's a parallel in healthcare for what are called GPOs, group purchasing organizations. And the spirit of it is they'll buy in mass for a large number of physicians in order to get discounts. I'm curious, now you gave me an idea. Has there been any discussion inside Daisy about consolidating all your HOA relationships in order to get benefits for the homeowners?
Yeah, so we're doing it today in terms of buying power with vendors. So if, for example, the city of New York came out with a new legislation that all buildings should have gas detectors, right? So for us, it's an amazing opportunity. We go to one vendor, we're able to strike a good price for all the buildings together, and then all the buildings in the Daisy networks can actually save money. So that's on the higher level of all the buildings that we manage, but also within each building, right? We have buildings of hundreds of units that all of them together can actually buy internet together, can buy different things as well for the unit level. So in the end, this is a network. It has a network effect, and if you can add more buildings, more HOAs to our community, then everybody gains from it.
Love it. Yotam, it's been a great podcast. I've learned a ton. Really impressive what you're building with Daisy. Before we wrap up, one of my questions I love to ask is a retrospective. And so if you had an opportunity to go back, have a conversation with your younger self, what bit of advice would you share?
First of all, it's been great. Thank you. In terms of going back, I think that um, I would advise myself to really go with my founder intuition, I'll call it. I think that as a founder, you get so many signals from different places, from investors, from the market, from people in the company, and sometimes you're not 100% sure. As I said, in the beginning, there's a lot of uncertainty in this world, and I think there is something about this founder intuition that you get all these signals and probably the thing you're feeling very strong is the right thing, and there is a lot of signals for that. So I would trust my intuition more.
What do you think then? Have you ever given any thought to what are the things then that prevent founders from acting on the signal?
Yeah, I think that in the end there is a lot of uncertainty, right? And you have, even when you're early entrepreneur, you talk to a lot of investors and a lot of advisors, and those are people with so much experience, and you kind of like get their advice as the right one. I think as I mature to my second venture, I understood that advice is great. You need to kind of like listen to all of that, and then in the end, you need to think what you believe is the right direction. Because people, see, they basically give you that advice from their background and not always from really seeing the entire picture. So I think I'll give you an example, right? When we end the board meeting, at Daisy, which we really spend most of the time talking about very big strategic decisions, we always take one day, and then I talk to my co-founder, and then we analyze what we want to do, because different opinions, a lot of great advice. We have an amazing board, but in the end, you need to kind of like let it sink for one day, and then we sit together, and then we say, okay, we agree with that, we disagree with that, and we basically make our own decisions on how to move forward.
Love it. Yeah, I've also found that sleeping on things is extremely valuable. It gives an opportunity to sink in, and I find that a lot of times when I wake up in the morning or the next day, I'll have clarity of what to do. It's great. Um, Anyone in your professional network, personal or professional network, that you'd love to give a shout out to, who's had a material impact on your career and success to date?
And I have many people along the way that I'm learning a lot from. We have great investors, great advisors along the way, but actually going to take this maybe opportunity to really thank my wife. She's been
Hey,
with me in these two crazy journeys, and I think in general, like I think entrepreneur life is difficult. It's a very hard life you're choosing to yourself, and the people that usually pay the price are your family. And my wife kind of like agreed to do it the second time after we did the first time. So I would really, have a shout out for her,
awesome. Well, and what's her name?
Michal.
Mikhail. Well, shout out to Mikhail. Also being married, it is difficult, but having the support of a spouse is brilliant and makes all the difference in the world. Yotam, really appreciate your time. If there are any members of our audience who'd like to get a hold of you or learn more about Daisy, how can they find you?
Find me on LinkedIn, Yotam Cohen, or on Twitter, Yotam C.
Fantastic. And with that, again, Yotam Cohen. Yotam is the co-founder and CEO of Daisy. Yotam, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Again, I'm your host, Kristian Marquez, founder, CEO of FinStrat Management. This has been another episode of the Innovators and Investors Podcast. Take care. Kristian Marquez here. Thank you so much for listening to the Innovators and Investors Podcast. If you're a successful founder or an investor who would like to be on the podcast, please visit podcast.finstratmgmt.com/podcast-guest. If you've got something out of this interview, please share this episode on social media. If you know someone that would be a great guest, please tag them on social media to let them know about the show and include the hashtag Innovators and Investors. I'd love to see your posts and suggestions. We're regularly putting out new episodes and content. To make sure you catch each new episode, please subscribe to the Innovators and Investors Podcast. And your thumbs up, ratings, and reviews go a long way to help promote the show, and it means a lot to me and my team. Would you like to know more? Go to our website, finstratmgmt.com, or follow us on LinkedIn or on X. Our handle is @finstratmgmt. This is Kristian Marquez. Thank you for listening. Until next time.